Hello everyone, what's up? Today I'm going to talk about a little part of the most recent vid I did on the main channel. Check it out, it has the context for everything, which is a review on competitive Splatoon 3. So this is talking about only competitive, mainly about top level, and this chart was featured for a little bit because I wanted to talk about the problem in terms of skill expression on the common specials, how we don't see a lot of high skill expression specials anymore, like there's only one zip weapon that sees a lot of use, pretty much nothing from jetpack, like barely any crab, stuff like that. And, you know, the abundance of lower types of these specials, like we've seen more of Zuka, Wavebreaker with stuff like range and stuff like that. And today I just wanted to talk about this chart because obviously I did not have enough time to go into it with the video. So today I wanted to talk just a little bit about why these specials are ranked where they are and any little extra stuff I wanted to say. So yeah. I decided to separate this chart by strong and weak specials just because generally the stronger ones are the ones you see used more. You know, obviously there are some exceptions like I talked about in the video with RB is the reason we see a good bit of Wavebreaker. So let's talk about what I mean by this. So to clarify, high skill expression refers to both sides. So it means like both the user using the special and anyone who's attempting to fight them, meaning there is a lot to express skill-wise on both sides. So that is the point of this chart. I'm just going to briefly go through each one, so I hope that clarifies anything. If not, I'll try to get to the comments when I get some time. So, you know, I'm going to avoid spending time talking about Jet and Zip because I feel like I've rambled about these a lot, and my stance on them hasn't really changed for a while. You know, recall specials, very limited in terms of what they can do. Very limited in terms of protection, I mean, because, you know, you have the zip armor, but you have, like, points where you hit a wall and you can't move as much. Jetpack has that larger hitbox, more limited mobility in the air. You know, neither of these can really kill you for free. They both can one-shot, but are very difficult to get. You know, decent fire rate, stuff like that. So, these specials are a bit more obvious. I feel like anyone who's seen a relative amount of top-level, you know, usage of these will probably agree with them. And then counterplay side, obviously, you can try to, like, kill them or dodge them or parry them or punish the recall. There's a lot you can do. Crab Tank is a little bit lower. Originally, I had Crab Tank around the same as those, but I think that, you know, while Crab Tank does have a lot of depth to it, you know, you have the area effect fire mode, you have standard fire, you have ball mode, and then counterplay side, you have limited mobility. You know, there's headshots against the crab, which is one of the most satisfying things in the game for me. Ranks it very high in terms of skill expression for counterplay. But I think Crab has two things that make me put it a little lower. One is just the ball form is incredibly free for protection. I think that's just a little bit too easy. And then, there are some high ground or choke point crab spots where, you know, the type where, like, it's mincemeat and you crab and you just shoot forward for 8 seconds and it's a little bit more free. So that's kind of what got me to rank it a little bit lower. Kraken's probably the most controversial pick on this list, I think. But Kraken at top level, I think, is really difficult, especially when people know how to move, know how to avoid it, know how to punish it, and especially with the abundance of cooler, meaning that people are comfortably outspeeding Kraken, which means the Kraken basically has to get reads on where the opponents are going to move or has to find spots where it can get multiple targets. Not to mention any kind of verticality makes it incredibly difficult to kill anyone with. The charge attack has like a bit of a committal nature to it, so if you miss one badly, you could be really thrown off from where the opponent is. And yeah, I mean, it's also just really nice movement skill-wise if you're counterplaying it. I think avoiding a Kraken for long enough to punish it is, again, one of the most satisfying feelings in the game. Kraken does lose some points from obviously being invincible, so there's not a big threat of death. It's really easy to get low value, especially since we're talking about top level, and that's a lot of times going to be zoned, so there's not even an objective thing. Like, you're committing to a special where you're going to have less objective power than your main gun, so you really have to make sure something happens. It's different from dodging stuff like missiles, because you are the Kraken that is a player, and that dynamic, I think, has a lot of high skill interaction to it. So, you know, it's not perfect, obviously. The special does have invincibility, it has some knockback immunity, so there is some limitations there, but I think for the most part, it's really interesting. Medium. So, you know, I think it's really important to have a lot of high and very high skill expression specials at high level play, so already hitting medium here on the strong end is pretty disappointing. Try Zuka. I think this used to be higher on the skill expression side. The downsides for it are a lot less compared to the other ones, like Kraken has horrible end lag and limited paint, Crab has speed, Jet and Zip have recalls. Zuka just, like, lowers your movement speed a little bit, that's it. If you want to go back to your gun, you can just spam all 3 Zuka shots in, like, a second and you're back to your gun. It starts up pretty much instantly, so it's a panic button. It's not even bad at close range because it has like the largest area of effect out of all the specials we've talked about so far. It's incredibly easy to hit. the one-shot can feel really jank with the spinning hitboxes. So, you know, there is still some one-shots at a distance that you can get that are a bit skill expression-wise, and sometimes you can parry one of the Zuka hits. So there's some potential for counterplay or killing it early. Still feels pretty good, but it's nowhere near the level of the stuff above it. Booyah and Strike are really similar. I think Booyah is a bit higher here, but I did agree to move Strike up from where I originally had it on this list. Mostly because Strike does have its depth from where you're actually setting up the strikes themselves, like the ability to, you know, put them in a line, use them as smoke screens, use them to hit multiple different choke points, to have them land at similar timings. All of that is the depth of it. You can punish the special, obviously, since you don't move very well, but I don't think it feels very satisfying to kill the Strike user. It's like, oh, they didn't see me and they popped the special and now they can't do anything, so I just shoot them. It's not very satisfying. I think Booyah is a lot more impactful to take down. Booyah has to manage between using it as a panic button for its kind of HP thing while not having too fast a startup and its HP still being very shreddable. You can punish teammates who Booyah for the special. There's Booyah tech for some weapons like Splataners or Big Swag and stuff like that that can one-shot it if you time it properly on landing. That's really cool. I still like that that's a mechanic in the game. You can actually tank a bit of the Booyah Bomb on the enemy side so it doesn't displace you as hard. You get a bit more choices with it. So I think Booyah Bomb has a lot more to do for the user and those fighting it, but Tri-Strike definitely has more, like, setup potential, I guess. There's a lot more you can do with 3 different hitboxes you throw out than with Booyah's. Finally is the low half. Tacticooler's only real skill expression is basically just putting it in the right places, which is, you know, it's not nothing, but it's incredibly low. And then opponents is just camping the cooler or noticing someone can't hide because they have it. Not really that much to say here. Cooler has never been a big skill expression special, but hey, it's better than Armor's. Inkstorm's kind of just throw it and then it's there. If you're on the opponent's side and the storm is up, there's nothing you can do about it. And you could say, like, yeah, you could just kill them before they get storm, but you could say that about everything here. It has a little bit of depth to use since you have the ability to heal teammates or put it in a way where it travels a certain distance, but it doesn't even have smoke screen like it does in Splatoon 2. There's very little to do on the enemy side. Missiles, same thing. Like, once they're locked onto you, there's nothing you can do, which is even worse since they can just lock missiles onto you regardless of what you do. It's super free. Punishing it doesn't really feel that amazing, and it's really limited when you'll actually do it against a good user of it. It has a little bit more depth to use because you can lock onto like 1, 2, or 3 to 4 targets, and then it launches different missiles if you launch less people, and you get some call-out potential since this is coordinated play, so it's like a little bit more. Out of all the specials here, it probably has the most to do on the user side, but the least on the enemy side. And then Whale is just the worst. Like, it's like missiles where you get auto-locked on, but it feels even worse on the counterplay side, because the only time Whale really gets kills on people at top level is either when they're already really weak, or, hey, I happened to swim left when my pencil swam left, and we made this special do more damage for no reason, so I just die. It's really easy to avoid it otherwise. Like, if it's locked on you, you can control it because it just follows your movement. So it's only really a problem when it's locked on other people, like people you can't look at on your team, which makes it feel out of your control when that happens. So yeah, not much to say here. We'll go low to high on the weak specials here. So I can see this argument for Slider being higher, but I think there really isn't much there. Like, if you're on the punish side, it's look at where the giant indicator rails go and then shoot it when it's over. Not it's over and they have a few options they can pick from. No, it's over and they're just stuck and you just shoot them in place. And then same thing for the Slider user. Like, once you blow up, there's nothing you can do until the end lag's over, and most of the time, you're already dead by then. And then you can blow up a little bit early, but that's it. That's like all your options you can do. And most of the time, there's not going to be that many mix-ups in regards to that. So yeah, I don't have much to say for Slider. Big Bubbler has a little bit more on the counterplay side, since you can walk through the bubbler, shoot the weak points, and then the user still has to at least stand in the area they want the bubble in, but that's about it. And still enough to go into medium, just because there's a lot you can do with working around the special in different ways. Like where exactly you set it up, beacon jump, seeing people on the map, how people walk into the bubble using the beacon as a mini shield. It has a decent amount of stuff. It's not too bad. Screen is like Storm in a lot of ways, but the only difference is when the screen is up, both teams can actually use it. And I mean both, that's what puts it here. Like, either team can kind of shark by the screen. And then, you know, if it didn't have issues with disability stuff, then it would be something you could think about in terms of actually walking through the screen and taking the effect. Like, that's what it's intended to be, is you can do this, but it's going to hinder you a little bit. Which, you know, kind of allows itself to some amount of skill expression. Screen is probably the lowest one in this tier. I don't think it's that much, and I debated having it lower, but Like, there's enough arguments in terms of sharking and things you can do on either side of the screen to where I guess it goes here. Triple Splashdown has a bit of depth to use, not that much. It's mostly just if you want to line up fists over the ledges and stuff, or use it to trap people. There's some cool spots for that. It's mostly up here because of the counterplay side of things, like both shooting down the special or either of the fists and moving out of the way of them gives you a lot to do. So there's like cool interaction for the other side. Splashdown's never really a super hype, oh my god, that Splashdown user is so insane. It's more, holy shit, he killed the Splashdown in both fists. That's awesome. It's more opponent's side gets to look cool. Wavebreaker's another simple one to use that gets points here for the counterplay since the opponents have a lot of options between shooting it down, jumping over it, taking the damage, etc. So, you know, this is another case of opponent's side. But at least if you're throwing it, you get the mini point sensor effect as well. So it's like a little bit extra. And then chumps again, simple on the user side. Only real depth is jumping in with them. Or the one part that kind of keeps it here is just using the chumps as mini shields. And then on the opponent's side, obviously, you get to choose which ones you want to shoot down and which ones you leave, which gives a little bit of choices. Still nothing crazy, but it's solid. And then finally, we get to 2 with some actual skill expression, which is Vac. You know, the ability to make a teammate near invincible, but you have to make sure that it doesn't get filled too fast. You have to make sure you're not fighting things that could kill you through it. You have to make sure when you're dodging other attacks in squid form, you're not going to let your teammate die. You have a limited turning speed. You have the whole shot at the end, which travels really slowly, so you have to be really good at knowing where exactly you want it to hit and stuff like that. You know, it's not as high skill stuff like Zip and Jet to me. Like, there's a bit more times where Vac won't be too difficult to use. The shot explosion is still huge. Like, it's not that... like, it doesn't have as much depth as those specials, but it's still quite a lot. I think it still lends itself to a lot of interesting interactions, especially because, like with Kraken, you have to commit to being the Vac user. So if you're like a charger, you aren't being a charger at this time. So that adds a good bit of time of, hey, I'm really good at knowing when it's time to be a Vac. I'm not going to try to block the objective when I can get a free snipe, something like that. And then Ultra Stamp. Probably the other one where I've kind of talked about this a lot already. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. You know, you have 3 different modes of attack. You can get shot through it. You can get shot on the sides. The throw mode's difficult. Object damage. The only thing that really makes sure it's not as high as Zip and Jet is the area of effect hitbox on the rush mode is kind of stupid, but that's about it. So, yeah, I just wanted to briefly break down this chart since I know some people were going to ask about it, so I hope people enjoyed. And, yeah, thanks for watching.